Hello everyone, so I had put up a poll last week about what you guys want to see, whether you want to see more fat liberation content, something positive, and then I had a couple of subreddit options. The vast majority of you said still keep with the fat liberation content, but about a good chunk of you, 30%, wanted something positive. So I'm going to try to have my cake and eat it too with this video, in that we're looking at Lexi Nimmo. Now, if you were in the fat acceptance sphere, like watching the anti-fat acceptance content, watching the criticism and stuff, you probably saw her. She was the one that did the adult pre-K lesson that was super condescending and rude, and she was actually one of the people that first made me think about, I had been thinking about creating a channel like this for a while before I actually started doing it. And she was a big kickoff for that, because I had really wanted to watch all of her adult pre-K stuff. And I have my own call-in repeats and my own call-outs that we do for the kids, because I work with kindergarten a lot. Preschool, kindergarten, first grade tend to blur together with like these call-in repeats that we do. So, you know, she does the bubble in the mouth and turn your listening ears up. And I was going to respond with stuff like, lollipop, gumdrop, you were talking, now you stop. Or mac and cheese, time for you to freeze. Or I also had some non-food ones, like hands on top, now you stop. Peace and quiet. Or 1, 2, shh, shh, shh. Like, I had a shit ton. I still have more. I haven't even gone through all of them. We have so many different call-in repeats, and every teacher uses a different one. So I have this whole fucking backlog of different ones that we do with the kids, and I was going to be like equally condescending back to her, but I ended up looking through her content. She hasn't done adult pre-K stuff since May of last year. It's been a full year since she's done one of those videos. And I was looking at her content, and she seems to have actually grown some. She's still very much in the fat acceptance, fat liberation sphere. She's a true believer of that. She often spouts some stuff that I think sounds very stupid, which we'll look at today. We're going to take a look at a couple of videos of that. But then, like, she also mostly covers different fashion stuff. And when she does respond to someone, one, she isn't nearly as condescending as she used to be, and 2, she tends to target comments and take down people that were like truly unnecessarily nasty. I think this was one. But Barbie is thin, you can't you even clean your ass?
No, not from me. God, gross.
So I mean, she's a little condescending, but I kind of think that it's warranted, because like some of these people are being really nasty. This one was proud to be fat phobic, and she pretended to be sick. She also has some musical theater stuff. I think she comes across generally as a fun person. I think she's very pretty. I like her Barbie voice. I think she does a Barbie voice very well. And for the most part, though, it just seems like she's trying on different fashion items, and sometimes people put something really fucking rude. That being said, she does still have some fat acceptance, fat logic content, and one that just, they all seem to kind of get stuff wrong from the ones that I've seen. There's 2 major ones that we're going to look at today. This is going to be largely a shorter video, because I've already covered some of the more positive aspects of her content, in that she's not nearly as condescending as she was before. She's not as aggressive as she was before. But she's still, like, it's a half and half. Like, she's not as bad. And for the most part, she is just trying fashion items and living her life and doing her own thing. But then you have stuff kind of like this. This is an 8-part series. We're not watching.
I get hate comments.
I'm actually going
on the
to pause it.
internet.
We're not going to watch all 8 parts of this one, because she goes on forever and things don't match up. We're going to watch this one because I have a point that I need to make about it. But we're not going to watch the other 8 different parts, because it's a lot of her repeating the same. I only got about 4 parts in myself, and it just seemed to be her repeating a lot of the same stuff, and some of the stuff just like wasn't connecting at all. So we're gonna watch this, and then there's 3 videos she has on what she calls thinsplaining. So we're gonna touch that too.
From women, they are almost always white, Republican, Christian, and on a weight loss journey. Let's unpack that. Here's an example from today.
Oh, damn it, it didn't pause in time. Can I see it? So, let's see if we can... Nope, that just puts her... Okay, there we go. So, this is the comment that she refers to for at least 4 of the 8 videos. And it says, girls don't dress like hoes because it feels good. They do so for attention, period. Now, this is definitely a rude comment. It definitely seems to be shaming a level of sexuality. But it's not related to weight in any way that I can discern. Am I wrong? I don't think I am, because it seems to be one of the kind of a lot like some of the Christian like girl defined YouTubers that kind of condemn any expression of sexuality showing literally any part of your body if you have a deep V, like you're being too sexual sort of thing. Meanwhile, she likes fashion and she's just trying on different stuff. So,
and then here's this person's profile. All of her posts are either Republican politics, including like anti-trans stuff, anti-feminist stuff, shit like that, weight loss content, and Christian content, talking about Jesus and loving each other. Like, check this one out. Really? Really? Before I ever looked at her page and knew any of these things about her, here's how I responded to her comment. Then after looking at her page, it became totally clear why someone like me would really upset her. I think we're gonna need a part 2. Sorry.
Okay, unfortunately that didn't cover quite everything, but she goes on to talk about how she's just fat and living her life, and clearly that offends this woman. I didn't get anything from the woman that was targeting her weight in any capacity, and I think that this is kind of a representation of how sometimes like the fat acceptance movement see even on her hashtags, it's like fat phobia is not cute, fat phobia sucks, hashtag fat phobia, like there was no mention of your weight in that comment, and her response was actually very respectful, a little condescending, but not I don't think it was meant to be condescending. I think she was genuinely trying to come from a mature place of not engaging and just offering compassion forward. I think that's what she was going for. But the thing is that, she tags these as fat phobia is not cute, fat phobia sucks. But at least for the 4 videos that I went through, there's nothing that this woman has done apart from post some fitness content that suggests that there's anything about, not being fat. My guess is that woman's comment was referring, she had a TikTok further back about a butterfly crop top that she really loves. And she was wearing it, and my guess is that that's what Miss Christian Lady here was so offended by. That's not necessarily, I don't think that is in any way commenting on her fatness. I think this woman is just against women wearing crop tops and showing their cleavage and shit like that. So, like, it just seemed really reaching, and yet it goes on this entire... So I thought it was 8, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so it's like 8 videos long just on this one person, just on this one comment that I can see, at least through this video. If she goes off further than that, I didn't see it. Quite frankly, it was getting really boring, and so I left it alone. The other main one that we're going to cover today, and we're going to cover all 3 of these videos, is on thinsplaining. And I have specific thoughts about that, but we'll get to it after her first video.
All right, this is going to make some people mad. Let's talk about thinsplaining. Another creator made a video about thinsplaining, and I will tag her in the caption. She didn't have her stitches on, or else I would have stitched. But she essentially explains that thinsplaining is when a thin person, probably someone who's naturally thin, tries to explain fatness or how to become thin to a fat person as though we've never heard it before and we don't know our own bodies better than a stranger. In that video, she says that she's been hearing this since she was 7, and it just triggered so many memories. The first time thinsplaining happened to me, I was in the 1st grade. My 1st grade teacher kept me in the class during lunchtime and opened my lunchbox and took out my Lunchable and taught me how to read the nutritional value and count calories on my food in my lunchbox. I was 6 years old. Six years old. I have more stories. Let me know if you want to hear more.
Okay, so a couple of things. One, if you're trying to equate thinsplaining to mansplaining, which seems to be where it was taken from, mansplaining happens when men are explaining basic concepts to women as though they are too stupid to understand fundamental basic shit, and oftentimes it's equated with men explaining fundamental basic shit of a topic that a woman has an advanced degree in. That's typically what mansplaining is. What you just explained here doesn't at all correlate, even if you were just going for replacing man and woman with thin and fat. It doesn't correlate because your first example is of a teacher explaining nutrition to you. Now, as a person who's going into the field of education, I do think that the teacher may have overstepped. I think that the intention was good. I think she was trying to explain she recognized there was a need for education for this young child that was clearly overweight. I think that the teacher completely misstepped in thinking that a 6-year-old that has that kind of autonomy and ability to kind of dictate what they eat. Kids eat what's in front of them for the most part, unless they really hate it. And so I think expecting a child to understand the concept of calories and fat and whatever, that's, like, if you're really concerned about it, that's warrant for a teacher sit down with maybe your admin or someone, or maybe, like, there's other ways to go about it rather than talking to the child directly. I work with a lot of 6-year-olds, and I think it's kind of cruel to expect them to be able to understand and control what they eat, because some parents are very much like, you better eat everything that I pack in your lunchbox, and there's just a couple things going on there that I don't think is fair to put on the kid. So I do think that the teacher overstepped in that regard. That does not make it thinsplaining, though. That's not thinsplaining. She was giving you valid information. I think it was a bit age inappropriate, but she was giving you valid information on something that you did not know about because you were only 6. Again, I still think that it was age inappropriate, and I think that putting that expectation on a 6-year-old is unreasonable. But it doesn't track with what we think of when we think of mansplaining. So your equivocation there is off.
I'm gonna go ahead and tell a few more stories because I feel like this is a really universal experience for fat people, and if you've experienced this, maybe it'll help you feel less alone. And if you haven't experienced this, especially if you haven't experienced it because you're thin, maybe it will help you gain some perspective. So the second memory I have of thinsplaining was in the 2nd grade. I was about 7 years old, and I lost a tooth at summer camp. And my friend, who was also about 7, she said, "Are you going to put it under your pillow for the tooth fairy?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Great, you should leave her a note and ask her for a magic pill that will make you skinny." Those words came out of a 7-year-old's mouth. Unbelievable.
Gotta be honest, I do find this story sus. Mostly because, again, I work with a lot of 7-year-olds, and for the most part, they're not in the mind frame of fat versus skinny yet. I mean, they can, I mean, it's not outside the realm of possibility. I think they would be more likely, I think that a 7-year-old going outside the realm of, because typically what the kids know with Tooth Fairy is you put teeth under your pillow, you get money in exchange. And in my experience, most 7-year-olds don't think outside the box enough to think that you can ask for something outside of that prescribed idea. But even if they did, that still seems very sophisticated in that leave them a note and ask them for a magic pill, and like that very orderly thought process. So I think there was either more to the conversation that was left out. She's misremembering at least a degree of what was said, or it could just be a fabrication. I'm not 100% sure. I do find it sus. I'm not saying that it's completely outside the realm of possibility, but there's something else going on here, because there's a mismatch with what I understand how 7-year-olds talk and with what's being presented here. Now, going back to thinsplaining again, so again, that's not really thinsplaining. Thinsplaining would be thinsplaining. I mean, if it were even a thing, the closest equivocation for this scenario would be if she's eating a cookie, her friend is eating a cookie too, but then her friend says, oh, a cookie isn't very healthy. It's actually much more healthy to have a piece of fruit. Like, she doesn't know that. I think even 7-year-olds realize that. That would be closer to thinsplaining. This is not thinsplaining. This is perhaps your little 7-year-old friend lacking tact, which I could 100% see for 7 years old, and saying something hurtful without realizing it. Because kids are fucking brutally honest, and they'll tell you if you're fat, and they'll tell you if they think you're ugly, and they will tell you if they think you look old. Like, they will. That's what kids do. I don't think that's thinsplaining. And I honestly, neither of the examples that she's given so far lend any credence to this concept of thinsplaining. Right now, thinsplaining just seems like the latest bit of mix and matching terminology from other activist groups to try to legitimize your movement more, but you still aren't even getting the core concept of the word that you're appropriating. So, no, so far, again, thinsplaining is not a thing, even from your own examples.
So thinsplaining happened to me all throughout my childhood. I was a chubby kid, and then I was like not skinny in high school, but I wasn't fat either. But in high school, it's like if you're not skinny, then you're fat. And it was just genetic. I just have a slow metabolism naturally, and it probably would have worked itself out if it weren't for extreme damage due to the repercussions of diet culture. I'll say it that way to keep everything kosher and not get flagged. Anywho, the next story that really stands out to me was my freshman year of high school. I'm sitting at lunch and I'm eating a protein bar and a salad. Of course I was. And my friend, who was super skinny and who took Ritalin for her ADHD, came up to me and she's like, "Are you dieting?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "I can help you." I was like, "How? You don't know what you're talking about." What?
So, again, I think part of the problem is that she's using examples from when she was a kid. So freshman year puts her at maybe 14. If she's an old freshman, maybe 15. I granted, I don't work with freshman high schoolers, but I have worked with 8th graders in middle school. And they think that they know a lot more than they do. They think that they're experts on certain things in which they have a basic knowledge of. Again, this doesn't seem like thinsplaining. She didn't actually explain anything to you that wasn't common knowledge or that you clearly would already know. She just thought she was an expert in something, as high schoolers and middle schoolers often do. They there's an overestimation of their own knowledge. There's very much a Dunning-Kruger effect in these later grades and these older kids of thinking that they know a lot more than they do about a subject. And that's not being derogatory towards kids at all. I think that's just a natural effect of how young they are. And she mentioned, eating a protein bar and a salad as if that's a bad thing. That actually doesn't sound like a bad lunch to me. Granted, I prefer light lunches. And if you were putting salad dressing on the salad and it was a lot, it might have been a lot more than you thought, and that could be why she said she wasn't fat in high school. And I know that thin standards in high school tend to be a little bit more extreme than they are for like the average person, especially because kids put an overemphasis on stuff that isn't real. The over airbrushed magazines and filters and stuff they often treat as reality rather than the fiction that they are. But again, this doesn't seem to be very thin-splainy like you're claiming. This is just you having unwanted advice. That seems to be the ongoing thing. That's not thin-splaining. Unwanted advice is not thin-splaining. They're not explaining easy concepts to you that you would have clearly already have known. They just offered you things that you didn't ask for. That's not the same thing as like what the equivalent would be for mansplaining. It's just not the same. Yeah, those are my 2 cents on those videos. By and large, mostly what she posts now is fashion, like I said before, fashion videos, and that's about it. I think she got a dose of humility with the viralness of that one video, and she seems to have way toned it down. And she does still respond to negative comments, but a lot of the stuff that she responds to seems to be like legitimately just like nasty comments. So like she's not all the way there, but there's definitely an improvement from where she was a year ago. I don't know if we'll cover her again unless she like backtracks and starts going into really dumb shit. But I thought it would be worth covering her since she was so big about a year ago. So let me know what you think of this video. If you have any fat acceptance people, either on TikTok, on YouTube, or Instagram, any of those, please let me know, because I'd love to check out all of my regular people, like Fat Sapphic Bro, Marissa, Feminist Land Whale, who I was going to cover, but she hasn't. She's mostly been doing outfit of the day videos. So a lot of them have just been posting kind of dancing videos, just them having fun. I have no real point to comment on that. I really prefer to just comment on argument videos. So if there's anyone that you would like me to cover, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to cover it. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.